Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard. I went from being a lawyer and partner at one of the largest firms in America to becoming an online personality and successful entrepreneur. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your health and personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you chase joy while achieving success? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back to Hustle and Flow. I am your host, Heather Hubbard, and we are on episode 241. If you have ever been in a situation where your progress has stalled, you know just how infuriating it can feel. So you had great growth, you were making fabulous progress, and then you've not changed anything. You're doing everything exactly the same, and yet you are no longer seeing the results that you were before. What do you do? Well, that is what today's episode is all about. It is about breaking through those plateaus so that you can get moving in the right direction again and start seeing growth and results. All right, let's talk about plateaus because I've been experiencing a lot of plateaus recently. And it occurred to me that you might be as well. When I first started hitting all of these plateaus, I had a few different thoughts as to why it was happening. One was because I had been out for so long. So it really wasn't a plateau so much as I just wasn't seeing the results that I wanted fast enough. But I then was making progress on things and then plateauing or even going a little bit backwards. And I was like, what is even happening? And so I just got really frustrated and started to dig in, and I learned a few things which made total sense. And so I thought I would share them with you as well. So what am I talking about with plateaus? Like, where can a plateau happen in your life? I think most of us are familiar with the concept of hitting a plateau as it relates to weight loss, or if you are lifting weights or doing a particular kind of exercise. We talk about these plateaus a lot. So everything's going great. Either you're losing weight or you are gaining muscle mass, and then you just stop. Like nothing has changed, but it's not working the way it used to. But that's not the only thing. That's not the only thing that could actually experience a plateau. You might have a plateau in your relationships, especially your long-term romantic relationships. I have been married now for so long, I don't even know. I'm like, when did we get married? And I think I've been married 27 years this summer. Don't quote me. When you've been married that long, if you've been in a committed relationship with someone that long, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say you hit plateaus. And it doesn't take nearly that long to actually hit a plateau. So hopefully you're familiar with what I'm talking about. Like you just get into a bit of a rut. You're doing the same things, but it's just, you're not as connected. It's not as intimate. Things aren't as exciting. This can also happen in your job. It could be that used to be really interesting and fun and challenging, and now it's, okay, fine, boring. You just feel like, you're checking boxes. Each and every day, you're doing the same thing, and you could do without it. But depending on your age, you might feel like you're kind of stuck and you don't have a lot of options. Another way that you can get in a rut in your career is if you have basically gone as far as you can go. You cannot go any higher for a million different reasons, but you feel as though you can't go any higher. You feel as though you've hit this plateau in terms of progression. And then it becomes, well, am I satisfied with just staying where I am? Do I want to change careers or change jobs so I have an opportunity to advance again? That is another way that a plateau can show up. If you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, or you are in any kind of business where you are, well, I was getting ready to say where you're focused on marketing or sales, but that's not true. It's truly anything and everything. If you have any kind of job, you are familiar with the concept of a tool, a strategy, a technique just not working anymore. Like it used to work really well, and now it doesn't. But I do think from like an entrepreneurial perspective, it can be like people were opening my emails and now they're not, or they were downloading the podcast and now they're not, or the funnel that I was using, the sales strategy, my website, it was converting. It's no longer converting. There can be any number of things where it was working. It was working great. And now it's not. And you have to ask yourself, like, do I change it up or is it just the economy? Like, what is it that's actually making this happen? But you hit this plateau where your growth and your trajectory either stops, slows down, or it reverses. And in this economy, I know that so many businesses actually are experiencing this. So I thought that was something good to talk about. And then one more thing that I'm going to throw in here in terms of where you might actually reach a plateau. And that is just in terms of happiness, enjoyment. As we're growing up, we go to college. Maybe we go on to a grad school. We're getting jobs. The trajectory is just, it's up, right? It's like, where am I going? What am I doing? And then you might hit midlife. I'm not saying that I'm in midlife, but I might have some experience with this. Your hobbies might feel this different. Your career might feel different. Your ambition might feel different. Your creativity, just your zest for life may not feel as though it is going up anymore. It might feel as though it's going down, or it just may feel as though you have truly plateaued. So we are going to talk about plateaus in the context of all of these. So hopefully by now, by going through all of those examples, you have identified at least one, probably more, areas of your life where you might be experiencing a plateau. If so, this episode is going to help. So, why do we hit plateaus? Is it just because we get older and we're aging? Maybe. That could be related to metabolism and health. Maybe. Is it just that the older we get, we're not as adventurous? Maybe. But also, it might be related to science. And when we think about the economy, when we think about just everything that's going on in the world right now, could that be impacting your job, your business, your happiness? Maybe. Or maybe it's related to science. It could be either. I don't know your specific situation, but I think a lot of us just think about it in terms of all of our outside external circumstances, and we don't always think about it in terms of neuroscience. I talked about this in multiple episodes in the past, but the one where I think it really covers the most ground is episode 99, Changing Your Habits. If you've never listened to that episode, or it's been a while and you'd like a refresher, I will put the link in the show notes for you to go back and listen to that. But it covers more about the neuroscience as well as habits. And that's part of what plateaus are related to. They are related to our routines, our habits, and our neural pathways. If this is a new concept to you, imagine that there is a highway in your brain where messages are getting across. And the brain is a very, very complex computer in many ways. And so it's constantly looking for shortcuts. It's looking for ways to be more efficient so that it can use your brain power on other things that are harder and more complicated. So anytime you get into the routine of doing something over and over again, you create a neural pathway. And I always think of these in terms of whether it is the ground, so it's like dirt or mud, or old roadways. I think of Pompeii, where it has been preserved, where you would have wheels going down even stone streets. But when it goes over it and over it and over it, the same way like one of my dogs used to do in my yard, they take the same path over and over and over again, such that it creates a rut. It creates a path. That is the same thing that is happening in your brain. So, whether it is your health, your weight, it is your relationships, your job, your career, any number of things, if you do it long enough, it is going to create a neural pathway in your mind so that you then become on autopilot, which is great. It works for a really long time and in a really easy way, because once you develop that habit, once you have that neural pathway, you just keep it up. So for me, if you were watching on, I know not all of you are on Instagram, but on Instagram, I guess maybe 2 years ago, I used to post all the time about me dancing at a place called AKT. Well, then they went bankrupt, I believe, across the nation, and all of them got shut down. And then I had no place to dance. So then Julianne Hough, she started a Kinergy studio here in Nashville, and I get to dance again. I don't get to take as many photos or video and put it on Instagram because it's a different format. The other one we would perform and record, and we don't do that with this. So I don't post as much about it, but I am dancing 4 to 5 times a week, and I absolutely love it. And when I first started going back, it was actually hard to get in that routine. So maybe I was going twice a week. And part of that was because my body wasn't used to it. But a whole lot of that was because my mind wasn't used to it. It's just getting out of the house, it's building it into your schedule. As I talked about in episode 99, habits and neural pathways, it's not just about breaking habits, but it's about creating habits. Both are hard because you've got this neural pathway in your mind that you're either trying to, get the grass to grow again, or you're trying to actually get the rut created. Now that I'm in the routine, and it's fabulous. It's awesome because I'm getting the health benefits and it makes me feel good. I've got the joy, but I already know that it's not going to last forever. I will hit a plateau. I have no idea when that's going to be, but it's working right now. So I'm totally into it. And I can even tell, so with each dance is a little bit different each month. They change it up so that you don't get in a rut. It's a little bit exciting. And at the beginning of the month where I'm learning new moves, new routines, it's harder for me. I don't get as much of a workout, but my brain is having to work extra hard because it doesn't yet have that muscle memory, and it's trying to create that neural pathway. And so it's more difficult. By the end of the month, I know those moves down so well. Those neural pathways are already in my brain. It's like as if you were like rehearsing for a performance or a speech. Like you just do it. Like you're not even thinking, you're just going. And it doesn't bring me as much joy towards the end of the month because like I'm off somewhere else because I don't have to be present. My body can move without my brain being really needed at all. The middle of the month is the sweet spot. That is when I don't have the muscle memory fully, but I've got a little bit. So I have to stay present and focused, but I'm also really getting a good workout because I understand the moves. And I think it's such a good example of how anything and everything works in life. At the beginning, it's kind of hard because you don't yet have it down. Your brain's really having to think. It's trying to create that habit. And then you're doing great. It might feel a little bit difficult, right? It doesn't feel amazing, but you're getting great results. And then over time, once you've done it a million times, your brain goes on to autopilot. And it's when your brain goes on to autopilot that you start to get close to a plateau. Now, the plateau is going to be different for each person. The context matters. You matter. There's so many different things that come into play, but it truly is when you get into that autopilot, you've got this habit, you've got this neural pathway that you may be susceptible to the plateau. And for those of us, when we hit a plateau and we think it's all our fault, or I did something wrong, or I feel like a failure, just know that it, in many ways, is biological. And there's not a lot that you can actually do to prevent it. Now, we are going to talk about how you can start to watch for it, but you're never really going to be able to avoid it. It's just a part of life, and that's totally okay. And then, in terms of business, like if we think of just marketing, if we think of sales, if we think of customer service, that too is related to neural pathways, just the neural pathways of your customers. When they see the same kind of email all the time, when they see the same social media all the time, when they see the same products all the time, they start to get numb to it. They start to get immune to it. They go on autopilot. I don't know about you, but the number of emails that I like, if I start, I get so many emails, especially in my personal email, but business as well, that like you just start deleting and then you're like, wait, what was that? And you have to go pull it out of the trash because you just assume that so much of it is either junk or just not relevant. I mean, I'm on so many different email lists. It's wild. It actually takes energy and effort to unsubscribe. It's easier to just hit delete. But your audience, your customers, your clients, they're doing that too. I remember when online business first started to really get going in the 2000s. It was new. It was different. When I started my online business in 2014, I didn't really feel like I was, in the new frontier. But for many people, when they ask, how long have you been doing this? And I tell them, they're like, oh, you really go far back. And I'm like, well, kind of. There wasn't a lot of people doing it. And so it was so easy to run ads. It was so easy to do a 3-part series, or there were just a lot of different marketing techniques that absolutely you could count on to work really, really well because people were not used to seeing them. And now it's not just online business. I come from the legal background and even big law firms, right? Like they've got their podcasts now. They've got their opt-ins and their freebies and their funnels. And so because people are so used to seeing this from their dentists and their lawyers and their life coaches and everything in between, people aren't paying as much attention. There is a neural pathway that has been created that tells them, I've seen this before, I know what this is. The fundamentals of marketing, the fundamentals of sales, the fundamentals of communication, the fundamentals of visuals, those things are not going to change. But what is working in any given moment absolutely is, because it matters whether or not the public at large is being motivated by it, or they're just they've seen so much of it that they're tuning out. I do think that the economy is absolutely impacting businesses, but I also think that there has been a saturation level with social media. There's been a saturation level with email. There has been a saturation level with ads. There has been a saturation level with networking and lunches. Everything is just so saturated, partly because we consume so much email and social media and just content in general each and every day. Everything is so much faster. You've got to be fast paced to catch someone's attention. So we are being inundated and we are saturated. So we have hit a plateau. We have hit a plateau. And so things are evolving in that way as well. And so sometimes when you hit that plateau, it's important to take a step back and say, is this an external factor, or have things shifted? Have things changed in a way that my consumer, my client, the culture, their neural pathways are also so much in a rut that they are on autopilot and they are no longer paying attention? Okay, so what do we do about it? What do we do when we have hit a plateau? Well, I have 4 tools for you today, and you can mix and match them. Just try one out. But I know that one of them is going to work for you. Okay, so the first thing that you can do to move through a plateau is to simply mix it up. This should make complete sense if you think about fitness or health. When you hit plateaus related to weight training, you have to change the way that you are training, whether it is the actual exercise, whether it is the muscles, the order. There's all kinds of, if you've ever worked out or trained at all, you know that you can never do the same thing constantly and it be effective. I am dealing with this right now, actually, with food. I started doing keto back in 2017 and I lost a lot of weight with it and I kept the weight off. And that was my go to. And then it became a neural pathway. And I was such in the routine of I eat healthy, high fat foods and I never eat carbs. So I've been doing this for almost 10 years. And I had the adrenal tumor, which created all kinds of hormonal issues. I gained all of this weight. And when I then went to try to get healthy again and lose the weight, I did what I had always done before. And it worked pretty well until it didn't. And then I started gaining weight again and was like, why? I'm looking, and so I start tracking what I'm eating, and I'm like, well, I'm not even eating that many calories. Like this math does not math. What is going on? Is it just my age? I was so frustrated, and I thought, okay, I've got to change it up. And so the way that I mixed it up was my mother had actually told me that she was doing the Mayo Clinic diet, and so I looked at it, and for me, because I'm not really into diets, but it was all about just rebalancing the food groups. And I thought, I can try that. I'm willing to mix this up and try that. But it was so hard, not because I had to cut out foods I loved or, I was eating super unhealthy. It was that the number of healthy fats that you're supposed to eat is so low. And that was basically all I was eating. And you have to hit targets. So it's like you need carbs. And I'm like, what? Like every day it was like I didn't have enough carbs. I'm like, you want me to eat bread? You want me to eat pasta? Because it's whole grain carbs they're wanting you to eat. And I'm just like, you want me to eat this? Because in my mind for so long, I was like, that's a no-go. You cannot eat that anymore. I was full. I didn't want to eat. I would get like I was like, I cannot possibly eat anymore today. And they were like, you've not had enough vegetables. You've not had enough fruit. And I will say, like the first week or two, I didn't have the results that they said I would have, but I've now been doing it for, I guess, 2 months now. And I've had really good results by eating more, but simply mixing up what I'm eating. It's just a different balance of food groups. Will balancing my food groups differently work for the rest of my life? Probably not. I'm eventually going to hit a plateau, but I don't have to worry about that right now. That's not where I am. I totally had hit the plateau with keto, but where it was such a habit and there were so many other things going on in my life, it never occurred to me that I had actually hit a plateau. And when I mixed it up, it just started coming off. Nothing else changed. Wild, completely wild. So that is a great example of mixing it up. From a business perspective, I will tell you, I've been testing a lot of things lately and just kind of watching and paying attention. And one of the things that I determined from an email perspective was that I don't enjoy getting emails. There are very few emails that I enjoy getting, and so few people pay attention to them. And so I was really playing with the concept of different ways to deliver email so that it is fun and enjoyable and doesn't immediately go into the trash. So maybe you were on my newsletter list before and you haven't been in a long time, or maybe you are and you're like me and accidentally just hit delete all the time, or maybe you read them. I hope that you're going to see it's very new. I think it's exciting. It's more in a format where it's very visually broken up into lots of different things so that it can keep your eye going. Like I said, we are used to consuming in a very fast way. So it lets you look at things in a very fast way. And then you can dig in where you want to and just keep scrolling for the things that you don't. But I'm not going to give away all the surprises, but I'm going to be implementing some new things that I think is going to be really enjoyable and fun. And just in the time that I've determined I was going to change that, I have seen three more people that I follow who I also consider amazing marketers and business people, and they too are changing their emails. And so I thought, isn't that interesting? So it's probably going to move to this new format for a while. And although I've not seen theirs yet, so I'm sure all of ours are going to look a little bit different, but we have this same concept. We're seeing that we have hit a plateau, and so you got to change. So it's going to be interesting to see how long this lasts. I mean, it can be a decade, it might be a year, who knows? But when things start to change, or you are seeing that your results are not what they used to be, you have to ask yourself, well, what can I do differently? How can I mix it up? And the reason why we resist this is because it takes work. It takes time. When you have something on autopilot, it means you have systems. It means that you don't even have to think. You just put it out. For so many years, my email is directly related to my podcast. You know, when we talk about repurposing and you repurpose across all the channels, but we know that what's responsive on LinkedIn is different than what's on Instagram or Facebook. And Instagram is my social platform of choice, but I can always tell when someone actually is a LinkedIn person and they're posting something on Instagram because all they did was repurpose their LinkedIn posts, and it doesn't relate. It falls flat on Instagram. And the same is true, right? Vice versa. So it doesn't mean that I don't sometimes do it too, but just knowing that we cannot repurpose the way that we used to, we're going to have to focus. We're going to have to put, our stake, in the ground and say, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to focus on. And here's the way in which I'm going to deliver it. It just requires us to change what we're doing. And as humans, we are naturally wired to not like change. It feels hard. It feels different. We just want things to always be easy. Like once I've figured it out, I don't want it to ever have to change again. But when we embrace that things are always changing, they are always evolving. And when you hit the plateau, you mix it up. It can also be something fun if you approach it from that perspective. Okay, the second thing you can do, and by the way, they're all connected. I highly encourage you to do them all. The second thing that you can do is be curious and treat it like an experiment. So I think I just shared with you that I have been testing. I've been doing so much testing, really over the last 6 months to a year. And whether it's with social media, I've just dabbled with so many different things. And for those who actually do my business strategy, you know that I say you got to be focused, but you don't have to be focused on all the things you're testing, right? So like you test, and then when you know what you're moving forward with, then you get really, really focused. And you still stay focused on one thing while you're testing. And a lot of people are worried that people are going to think they're wish-washy or they're flip-flopping when they're testing. I guarantee you that 99% of people who follow me in some form or another have no idea that I did any of it. Or if they do know I did it, they've not thought twice about it. Remember when I said that it's hard to get people's attention because we're so saturated? If it's hard to get people's attention when you want them to pay attention, I can assure you they're not paying attention when you don't want them to pay attention. And even if they notice it, they're going to forget about it because there's going to be a funny cat video and Trump is going to do something stupid. Like there's so much that's going to happen. They're going to forget in like less than half a second. So worrying about people watching you and judging you and being like, what is she doing? you just got to let that shit go because it is not real. It's not real at all. And if you have totally been paying attention to what I'm doing and you've been trying to figure it out, great. I love that you are paying attention to my stuff. That is awesome. It does not bother me in the least that you see that I am testing things. So when you are coming from this place of it's an experiment and you're just like, I wonder what will happen if. What it does is it keeps you from trying to find the perfect solution. And so many of us, when we have a plateau or something isn't working, especially when it previously was, it can be so frustrating and disappointing that we just want it fixed immediately. Or we're like, I really have to dig in and figure out the right answer right now. That's not always the best solution. When you see something isn't working, just being willing to acknowledge it, be aware of it, watch it, test a little bit here and there, and allow in your own mind for you to formulate some thoughts around it, to formulate some conclusions, and then say, well, I wonder what would happen if. So it's not, well, and now I have the answer and I'm going to do this. And then you're trying to force it, or maybe the results don't come through. And then you're like, I've tried 5 things and none of them work. Well, it could be you didn't try them long enough. And it could be you weren't open to really finding what was going to work best for you because you were so rigid in the thinking of the solution you were looking for, as opposed to being flexible and curious and just saying, this is an experiment. I have no idea what's going to work in this moment, but I'm going to try some things and I'm going to pay attention. And then when I feel like I've tested enough and I feel good with it, then I'm going to say, all right, let's go try this for a certain amount of time to see what happens. So this new email that's coming out, we're going to try this new email out, this new format, probably for at least a year. But will I make small tweaks throughout? Sure, of course. But that's the name of the game. So when you can treat it like an experiment, it is going to allow you, one, to just have a better attitude, but two, probably find a solution that is actually going to work for you. Okay, number 3, hire a professional. Hire a professional. This is where people hire nutritionists. This is where people hire trainers. This is where I purchased the Mayo Clinic app. Those are not my areas of expertise. And there are others who do it all the time and who understand plateaus and at least have a system that you can follow, which makes it easier. You're not having to create it from scratch. Someone else already has another system where it's like, well, you can now try this. Stick with it for long enough, see if this works. But it's mixing it up with a professional's help. And often professionals will know how things are changing anyway. A great example with that would be social media. So if you had a social media marketing agency or manager, it is their job to pay attention to what is working and what is not working. If you hire a designer, it is their job to know what is working and what is not working. I do think, I'm scrappy too. It is so easy sometimes to just throw things in Canva or to use different social media templates or do it yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, I do stuff like that all the time. But if you're hitting a plateau or things aren't even working to begin with, having some outsourcing that to someone where it's literally their job to know what's working and what's not can help you get that piece off your plate so that you're not having to even watch for the plateau. You're not even having to say like, oh, and now this isn't working. They're in charge. They're in charge of knowing everything about that particular skill, technique, or market. And then the last thing that you can do is research, read, learn something new. Again, like I said, combining all of these is great. Get curious, treat it like an experiment, do some research, read, learn something new, and then mix it up, hire a professional to help you. If you combine them all, you're going to get great results. But what I mean by that is there's a million books, podcasts, blogs, so many resources available. If you enjoy reading and learning, go do that. And part of when we hit a plateau with just life and happiness, So much of that is we stop learning new things that are interesting and fun. We tend to just learn new things related to our profession, and we need more outlets than that. So sometimes, even if it's not your area of expertise, it can be fun and interesting to research and read and learn something new. I am a natural student of life and I love to learn. So anytime I'm in a situation where I can learn something new, that in and of itself can help me get out of a rut. I went to a class this weekend to learn about color, and that could relate to painting. It could relate to interior design. It could relate to nothing, but it was just so much fun to play with the color and learn something new. And when you just stay in that place of learning in general about anything, you are less likely to get in plateaus because you're always having these new thoughts and new ideas that apply in different ways. As we wrap up, I thought I would just share a few ways to avoid plateaus. You can't keep them from happening, but if you keep this curious, mindful approach, you will start to notice when things feel off, when it starts to feel different, when it starts to feel like everything is on autopilot and you're not getting the results. There will be a time where you can be on autopilot and still get the results. And isn't that always our favorite time? It's just so easy. Just know that if it's feeling easy, you've just got to watch. You've just got to be present. You just have to pay attention to when either it's no longer easy or you're not getting the results, even though it feels easy. And that's going to be your first red flag that you are getting close to or you have hit a plateau. And then that means it's time to mix it up. It's time to experiment. It's time to test, do some reading, researching, and potentially hire a professional to help you. And I promise you, you're just going to then start a new cycle. And when we can see it less about getting to the top of the mountain and more about we're just in these constant cycles where it's hard at first and then it gets going and it's awesome and amazing. And then we got to start over in a new and different way. And so when we think of it like that, it just feels more like an adventure. It takes the pressure off. It allows you to enjoy when you truly are on autopilot, and it allows you to have more fun when you are mixing it up and changing things again. Okay, I hope that you have found this podcast helpful. Come follow me on Instagram. Come hang out. That's my favorite place to be. And if you're not on the newsletter, you can join heatherjoyhubbard.com/subscribe. It's absolutely free, and you can see the new email format, whether you're interested in getting it every week or you're just curious. And I will tell you, one of the things that we're going to be rolling out is a way for you to customize and curate the exact emails that you receive. So be on the lookout for that in the near future. Have a great week. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, give the episode a like and leave a comment below so we can keep the conversation going. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a future episode or announcement. Listening on Apple, Spotify, or another podcast app, you can watch the video and join in the after show conversation by visiting hustleandflowpodcast.com.